We'll start with the first module, the first chapter, the prose part, that is Dancing in the Rain. Okay, it is written by Azim Premji. Do you know Azim Premji? You must have heard about him, right? Who's Azim Premji? Who is Azim Premji? Quick, quick, quick. So Azim Premji has written this particular narrative. Yeah, Aniket says Wipro CEO. Very good, yeah. So Azim Premji is the chairman of Wipro. He has keen interest in education. He has given many resources to improve the educational system of India. Okay, and he's a philanthropist and a business tycoon. Philanthropist means a person who tends to see the welfare of the others, who wants others to like, either philanthropists are people who do donate money or give resources to the needy, to the poor, basically. Okay, those are called philanthropists. The rich who help the poor are called philanthropists. Okay, and he's also the business tycoon. Business tycoon, as in he's like a big shot in business, and he's currently the 10th richest man in India. Okay, and he has a foundation named Azim Premji Foundation. I've heard that you've written some examination also, which was from his foundation. I'm not sure, but he also has this foundation named Azim Premji Foundation and a university named after him, Azim Premji University. He has written a lot of articles and a lot of inspirational anecdotes for Indian educational system, where when you actually read it, you 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 know, it opens up a dimension. It is like a good read. He has given many articles on educational system, and they are kind of motivational and inspirational to read. Okay, that's the author. Do you have any doubt pertaining to anything? Am I going too fast, or like, do you understand my language? Or also, am I audible to you? Is there any disturbance around? I'm just making sure that it's clear. Yeah, Krishna Vamsi says yes, ma'am. Rest all? Rest all? Okay. Okay, I'm audible and clear. Fine. So we'll start off like with the lesson Dancing in the Rain. What is this lesson about? Basically, Azim Premji, compares present day education system with child labor. Like, he sees child labor as one entity and present day education system as also burdening children with a lot of studies, and not giving time for themselves. Child labor is also burdened with physical uh, what physical strain, whereas here children who are well to do, who can afford education, are burdened with studies. Okay, day in and day out they are studying. Here, day in and day out they are working. So he compares two different realms, two different social spectrums: the poor who cannot afford, the rich who can afford. But yet there is no difference between those who are studying and those who are doing child labor, is what Azim Premji says. Okay, he also talks about, he actually gets to write this article when he gets to meet his colleague's daughter, and he asks her, like, what do you do, what is your daily schedule? She says that she wakes up at 5 in the morning, she studies for 1 hour, she goes to school, comes back at 4, goes to tuitions till 6, IIT coaching, and then from 6 she has tuitions again, and then she studies and then sleeps. So he says, do you have time to play? So she says, no, I don't have time to play, nor do I want to play, because board exams are really important. She's in ninth standard, okay? So she says that board exams are really important, and I don't want to, I don't have time to play, and board exams are something which I need to crack really, like, properly. So then he says that where is Indian education system going when the child does not have time for himself or herself to explore himself and herself, to grow on his own or her own? Where, like, how are we building humans? He says, like, day in and day out, it is just, you know, tutoring, sitting in a classroom and making the child sit in a prison. Okay, but like, why aren't the child led to explore, led to grow on themselves? Why aren't they given the creative time? How would they even grow without the creative time they're given? Creative time, as in, for example, if you're good at art, so you grow, so you should be having time to at least practice your art. If you're good at music, practice your music. And whatever you like, whatever is your hobby, whatever is your intention, why aren't children given that space for themselves, is what Azim Premji is questioning here in this particular lesson. And why is it named Dancing in the Rain? Is that he says that the day children of the locality come and dance in the first shower of the monsoon, that is the day India will see a new future. He says that the day when all the children of the community come and dance in the rain, that is the day when India will see a new future. That means when they do not have the shackles of their parents, like when they're not constricted or restricted by their parents, that is the day India will see a better future. India will see a brighter future, he says. So we'll start off with the lesson. Okay, basically there are 12 points in this. I'll explain each point. Before the point also, I'll tell what this point talks about, and also after I'll explain each point, and line by line I'll explain. If there are any doubts in between, you can always ask me. Fine. So far so good? So far so good? All clear? You've understood what this lesson is about? Okay. Kostab says yes, ma'am. Krishna Vamsi says yes, ma'am. Okay. Fine. So we'll start with the first, the text part. The first point goes like this. One often hears of the high prevalence of child labor in our country. Of the many reports I have read, perhaps the most disturbing was a report on the condition of children employed by the Zari factories in Delhi, Mumbai, and other parts of India. It grieves me to imagine children exposed to such inhumanity. So he says that initially in the first point he talks about children, the child labor which he heard from articles and other sources of Zari factory, the child labor of Zari factory. Okay, Zari factory is a kind of factory, that's the name of the factory. So he talks about the child labor there. He tells that children are taken away from their childhood. Child labor is a criminal offense. And he says that reports on the condition of children, the kind of condition in which the children are, is very grieving for him. Like he says that it saddens him. It makes him very sad to see that, to read about such things. Okay. He says that the condition of children in Zari factories is pathetic. Pathetic means very bad. Second point goes like this. Robbing children of their childhood is a criminal act, and our society must weed this malaise out from the root. He says that robbing children from their childhood, while doing like child labor, why are children sent for child labor? Because they cannot afford food or clothing, right? So they are forced to go into child labor. It is not their own wish to go into child labor. They are forced to become child laborers to earn money to eat and clothe. Okay. So he says that robbing children of their childhood is a criminal act, and our society must weed this malaise out from the root. Weed, you know, right? Weeds are those unnecessary plants growing in the crop. So when you weed the malaise, that means taking out this problem from the root level. Okay, he says that you need to take out this problem from the root level, where children are not exploited and are not taken, robbed from their childhood. Okay, malaise is problem, but where does the root lie? So he asks a question, but where is the problem? Where is the root source of the problem? Where is the problem lying? Okay, before you attempt an answer, let me give you an anecdote from the other end of the social spectrum. So he says that let me also tell you another story from different social spectrum. Social spectrum means like there is this different layers or different shades of from poor to rich. Okay, poor to rich, all these, like whatever comes in the middle class, upper middle, higher middle, rich, this is the social spectrum. Okay, people fall under all these categories, right? This is the social spectrum. Let's see the other side of the social spectrum. Till now we have seen the poor who work with Zari factory, the child laborers. Now let's see the rich or the middle class or whoever who can afford education. Okay, he says, let's see those children who can afford education. Third point goes like this. So in the third point, he talks about this colleague's daughter who says this, that she wakes up at 5 a.m., she goes to school, she has no time at all. Okay. A colleague in Wipro had a child studying in standard 9. She was in ninth standard of a reputed school in Bangalore. Reputed means very well known school in Bangalore. This child wakes up at 5 a.m., studies for an hour before going to school. She returns from school at 4 and rushes to her IIT entrance exam coaching class. At 6, she has tuitions for 2 hours. Post dinner, she spends an hour or more on homework. Okay. I asked her when she gets time to play. She replied that she does not play. She gets half an hour of free time each day, which she spends watching her favorite serial on television. Okay. She also added that board exams and entrance exams are very important and that you get only one chance. So, in this point, he's talking about this kid. Okay. Azim Premji's employees kid who wakes up in the morning at 5 a.m., studies for an hour, goes to school, comes back at 4, goes to IIT coaching classes, again has tuitions, does homework. She has no time except for half an hour where she sees her favorite serial. Okay, when he asks, do you play, she says, no, I don't play. So she has no time to play, she has no time for herself except for that half an hour in the day. She has no time for herself. Okay, and when asked, she says board exams and entrance exams are very important and you get only one chance to do it. So children are conditioned in this way to think that this is it. If you do not pass them, you are done. You are done and dusted. Like you have to pass them no matter what. That is how children are conditioned to think. Okay, if you do not pass them, you're meant for nothing. Like you're fit for nothing. That sort of attitude is brought into them, and that is why you have seen like many students of your age commit suicides, right? They think that if they fail in an exam, there is no future at all. They think like they cannot see anything above, you know beyond the exam. They only see that this exam, if I don't pass, if I fail in it, I have no future. Then what is the point of education, children? What is the point of education when you cannot think for yourselves, right? So you are conditioned. Basically, it's the, I do not want to pinpoint, but it's the organizations, it's the society, it's the parental pressure which makes the child think in a certain direction, makes the child think that if this is there, it is there, and nothing more than this. Okay, if you do not pass the exams, it is like one time affair, then you're fit for nothing type. Okay, that is the attitude which is ingrained into the child and which is very, very, very dangerous. Okay, see, let's see what Azim Premji goes on to say. Is the condition of this child different from that of the child in the Zari factory? So he says that the child who can afford education, what is she doing? She just has half an hour for herself. Isn't that the same as the child labor from Zari factory? Huh? Both of them do not have time for themselves, right? Both of them are doing some work morning till night. This Zari factory children are doing physical labor, whereas these children who can afford education are doing mental labor. But both of them are doing labor, isn't it? That is what he's trying to elucidate. He's trying to explain. Okay, he's comparing both the sides and trying to explain this. The fifth point goes on to say this: when I look at children, I wonder whether they have time to play with friends, to meet interesting people, to explore the world, and to follow their curiosity. When the first monsoon showers begin, I would think that the streets would be full of children rushing headlong into the rain. Headlong means like full on into the rain, dancing and playing. However, I think today the rains fall on empty streets. So he says that he actually wonders whether nowadays do actually children have time to meet interesting people. Do they have time to play? Do they have time to talk to their family members, sit and gather around? Do they have time to explore? So he's curious, like, or do they have time to follow their curiosity? He says that, like, they are just conditioned to think in a certain direction, and that's it. They're not led by themselves, like they're not left for themselves, and each one is just restricted, is what he's saying. So in the fifth point, he's just wondering, he's asking questions for himself, like, do children have time to play? Do they have time to do interesting work, their creative work, their hobbies? Do they have time to spend, explore themselves? Okay, that is what he says in the fifth point. So he also says that I would think that the streets would be full of children rushing headlong into the rain, dancing and playing. However, I think today the rains fall on empty streets. He says that if children were not restricted, I would imagine that children would be all around the place when monsoon showers happen. Okay, children would be everywhere, dancing in the streets and playing in the rain if they were not restricted. But now I just see empty streets. I just see empty streets. Okay, that is what he says. In the sixth point, this, my friends, is the new Indian reality in our villages, in our slums, and in our metropolitan high rises. He says that this kind of restriction, or like the kind of restriction and the burden children are going through, is not just in cities, it is everywhere, in villages, in slums, in metropolitan high rises, everywhere. So this scenario, this situation is seen everywhere throughout, where children are just meant to, they say that if you do not have education, you do not have anything. But did you ever notice that there are so many millionaires, for example Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs? These people are dropouts, college dropouts, yet they made it, isn't it? It's basically exploring, it's basically understanding, experiencing things that actually brings knowledge. Textbook is a small world. Okay, so in the sixth point, he says that these this kind of mentality of the parents, of the society, organizations, people around, is not just in cities but in slums and villages also. Okay, whatever the reason, poverty, societal aspiration, apathetic individuals and organizations, or just the burden of circumstances, the reality is that our children are straight-jacketed. What is straight-jacketed? That means restricted. Straight-jacketed, if you wear a straight jacket up till your nose, like how do you feel? It's very not comfortable, right? You cannot move your arms and legs. You're straight-jacketed. That means the word itself says you're restricted, severely restricted. He says that whatever the reason, poverty, societal aspiration, whatever, like even the society aspires from children, apathetic individuals. Apathetic individuals means people who do not have concern for others' emotions or others' feelings. They do not care for others' feelings. Those people are apathetic individuals and organizations, or just the burden of circumstances. The reality is that our children are straitjacketed. He says that the reality is children are restricted. Okay, they're not allowed to grow in their own sense. In the seventh point, he goes on to question. He puts on a lot of questions. Okay, the final indicator of a country's independence is the way its children live. Are children free from the malaise of poverty and hunger? Are they free from the burden of parental aspiration? Are they free from norms of societal conditioning? Are we ensuring the curiosity of our children continues to burn and is not stamped out? Are they free to explore the world, to realize their unique potential, and thereby help discover the true potential of the society itself? He keeps on questioning, like, are children given the space to grow? Are they given the space to explore? Are they given the space to experience? Are they given the space to, you know, build on the curiosity? Okay. He says he questions all these things. Okay. He says that until the child is not free from all these burdens, the country doesn't progress. Okay. Says that the child should be free to grow on his own. Every child has his or her own potential, right? Somebody might be good at music, artistic things. Somebody might be good at logic and reasoning, okay? The technical aspects. So if you make this child sit in artistic things and this child sit in technical things, would they grow? No, right? So every child should grow on their own. They have to realize their own potential and choose for themselves, is what Azim Premji says. You have to choose for yourselves as to what you want to do, as to what and where you want to go, rather than somebody telling you that this is what you should do. Okay, do something. That is when you actually grow as an individual, and that is when you can help the society or people around you who are conditioned like this, who are conditioned to think in a certain way, to explore and get out of that box in which they are in. Okay, that is what Azim Premji is trying to say with this point. Eighth point, he is comparing adults and children. Okay, he is trying to compare adults and children, and also says what Gandhiji is trying to say. Gandhiji said that the greatest lessons in life are learned from children, not from learned men. He says that, Gandhiji, what did he say? He says that the best lessons in life are learned from children, not from those who are educated and learned and what not. So he says that these small lessons are learned from children rather than a learned man. A child will fearlessly try before giving up. As adults, fearing failure, we give up even before we try. So here he's comparing child and an adult. Okay, he says that a child, he keeps on trying. For example, just imagine while you were kids, when you did not have as much ego as you have right now. Just go back into the memory lane. Just think of those days when your teacher scolded you, yet you were doing the same thing, or your parents scolded you and yet you were doing the same old thing till you succeed. Okay, probably you might have drawn some stupid art and your teacher must have scolded you, this is not it. You still would go and try it again because you never were scared of failing. You never were scared that okay, if I do not do it well, what will happen? You did not think of all that. You just thought how to draw it and that's it. You just thought of the process. You never thought of the product of it or the judgment you would receive. But what adults do, before even trying, they will give up on it because they do not want to face that failure. If ever failure happens, they have this negative mindset that if ever failure happens, what then? So they don't even try it. What children do is they try each and everything. They don't have this egoistic behavior where they are scared of failure or anything. Okay, they try each and everything. They try each and everything without assumptions, without a prejudice, or without even that the ego which stops them. They keep trying. If somebody says something, they still do the same thing again and again and again till they succeed, till they know that what they've done is the best piece of art or is the best piece of whatever they're doing. Okay, so he says that as adults, fearing failure, we give up even before we try. A child is inherently curious about the world, about relationships, about wanting to understand how things work. Okay, so he says that child has this inherent, that means innate capability. From the very beginning itself, the child is curious. You know, right? When while you were a kid, you would ask questions. Why this is like that? Why this is like this? You were very curious. Slowly, as you grow, you stopped asking those questions, right? Because people have shut your mouth down. They would be like, why are you asking such stupid questions? Because that is how we are conditioned. Okay, everyone is a product of that conditioning. He says that curiosity in a child is killed. Okay, so a child is inherently curious about the world, about relationships, about wanting to understand how things work. Okay, you say like, why is this in rectangular shape, or why is it like this, why is, how does it work? You take out, you pull out all the toys, you see everything, how does it work and all. The child is very curious, whereas an adult, for him is nothing. Nothing makes, brings that curiosity within him. Okay, that is what he says. So there are two things which is given in this paragraph. One, he says that a child doesn't fear failure, whereas an adult, even without attempting it, he fears failure and never attempts it. Even he doesn't even attempt it. Whereas a child, even if he fails, keeps on doing it, doing it, doing it until he knows that that is the masterpiece, or whatever he considers is the best. So that is one. And the second one is, child is inherently curious. A child has this sense of curiosity from within. Okay, as adults, our blinkered and conditioning self prevents us from truly exploring without prejudice. Okay, so he says that as adults, our blinkered, that means our limited and conditioned self, prevents us from truly exploring without prejudice. Prejudice means having said assumptions before itself. For example, you go to some mall. Okay, you like vanilla ice cream. Imagine you like vanilla ice cream. Okay, you go to a mall, you see lychee ice cream there. You have two flavors, lychee and vanilla. But you only take lychee because you don't want to try the other flavor, because you already in the mind know that, like, you have made this thing up in the mind that lychee won't taste good. So I'll only go for vanilla. Understood? That is how an adult thinks. Whereas a child, he you give him anything and he'll eat. Okay? He doesn't have this pre-assumptions of things. Like, he doesn't have a assumption of what this is it bad, is it good? No, he just explore, takes in the world as it is. Okay, he has a blank state of mind, he just takes in the world as it is. Whereas adults, they have pre-assumptions. Oh, this is bad, this is good, this is like, this is, I like this, I dislike this, all those pre-assumptions. Okay, that is what he says here. Okay, that prevents from truly exploring this world, that actually prevents from exploring the world as it is. You tend to project your mind onto the world rather than understanding the world. That is what he says here. As an adult, we usually link every action to an external reward or money or recognition. Okay, for a child, what she does is meaningful in its own right. So what he says is, for a child, he doesn't expect anything in return. He keeps on doing whatever he wants to do, right? But as an adult, if you want to do something, you think, what would you get out of it? Like, if do you get money out of it? Do you get fame out of it? Do you get recognition, popularity? What do you get, power out of it? So you keep thinking as to what you'll get out of it. You just don't feel like doing anything unless there is some return in it. Okay, okay. So as an adult, you think of the external reward, whereas a child does not think of anything of that sort. So these are all the lessons you need to learn from children, he says. Okay. Till now, is it clear? Like, am I clear? So far, so good. Am I going too fast? Are you able to understand? Is there a place where you did not understand? Is there a place where you did not understand? You can quickly send me the messages. Quick, quick, quick. Krishnavamsi, no ma'am. What no ma'am? You didn't understand. Rest all? Rest all, have you understood? So far so good? I'll still recapitulate the lesson again, but 8 points are clear. There are 12 points in total. 8 points are clear. Okay, clear. Krishna Vamsi says clear. Only Krishna Vamsi, rest all? Okay, Namita says yes. Rest all? It's not clear? If you have some problem anywhere, you can ask me. If I'm too fast, Kaustubh, clear, okay? If you have some problem anywhere, you can ask me, okay? So in the 9th point, he goes on to say that Azim Premji, I did not learn how to be a father from manuals. Manuals are like, you know, these textbooks or small magazines written where you write how to be a mother or how to be a father, what are the parenting tips and all, 10 tips to become successful, blah blah blah. All those are called manuals where you read and try to implement. So he says that I did not learn how to be a father from manuals. Whatever little I learned about being a parent, I learned by observing my children and letting them teach me. He says that rather than I teaching my kids to do what and what not to do, I observed them and learned from them. I, as a father, that means Azim Premji says that he learned from his um, children by observing and learning from them rather than he teaching them. Okay, so I learned by observing my children, letting them teach me. Similarly, I think our teachers should could grow enormously by learning from their students. So he says that our teachers should also have this thing of learning from students. Okay, in the future you might become a teacher. Okay, right now I am. What do? I just cannot just push my own things onto you people, right? I am also a learner and also a teacher. Okay, so for me it's a give and take relationship. So what he says is every teacher should be like this, where you learn from your students. Okay, in the future if you become teachers, you're not just teaching them or not just putting knowledge down their throat. You are trying to tell them and also trying to listen from them what they're trying to say, so that you also learn and they also learn. Fine, it's a give and take relationship. He says that as a father, i I, instead of me teaching them, I learned from my children. Okay, and he also says that our teachers could grow enormously by learning from their students. Okay, in the 10th point, we will then refrain from pushing our knowledge down their young minds and begin the democratic process of being joint learners as we discover and understand our world. So he says that only when we are joint learners, that means only when you and I both are learning together, okay, that is the day when you actually discover and understand this world, when you actually explore the world, and that is when you grow. You as a person grow, I as a person will grow. Okay, together it is mutual growth, a win-win situation for both of us. Okay, so he says that we will then refrain. Refrain means stop ourselves from pushing our knowledge down their young minds. He says that we'll stop pushing things on those young minds and we'll start learning together. Let's become joint learners as we discover and understand our world. I believe a powerful force for empowerment is to have motivated teachers who are learners first, teachers second. So he says that teachers should be in such a motivated state that they should be learners first. They should learn from the students and then teach. Teachers second, learners first. Okay. Only then will we stop trying to mold children into our adult likeliness. Only then we will let them blossom. So what he is telling is every child is different, right? Every child has his or her own capabilities, and you cannot push your own aspirations, your own thinking onto that child. Okay, because your own thinking is a part of how you took the world to be. How can this be similar to the kid with different potential, different aspirations, different upbringing, background, everything? how can a person, a teacher or whoever, parent in the position push things on the children who are different from them? Okay, that is what he's trying to explain, that children are different from you, or children within themselves also, each child is different from each other. Okay, but so how can you push one's adult likeliness? That means my own intentions, my own aspirations, like, child, you should be this. Your parents say you should be IAS officer only, you should be an engineer only, but what do you want to do is the question. Okay, so he says that we keep on pushing things onto children, but we do not allow them to grow themselves, to understand themselves. What do they want to do? They don't know. Most of you all might be not knowing what to do. That is because somebody has pushed their agenda on you. Somebody has conditioned you in a way to think in a certain direction. Okay, like horses, you think you see in a certain direction, that's it, you're not allowed to see there, you're not allowed to see here. How do you grow, is what Azim Premji is asking. So only then will we stop trying to mold our children into our adult likeness. Only then we will let them blossom. Only then we'll let them blossom means flowers blossom, you right? Like, flowers blossoming, opening up like this. So only then children will open up to this world. Only then children will grow in their own way. Take this example, okay? You plant a seed in the garden, huh? You create the manure, you create the soil around it. Okay, you give manure to the soil, you put on fertilizer and everything, that the plant grows. Okay, or do you tell the plant you should grow 90 degrees, then you should grow towards 30 degrees north, west, or whatever? Do you tell something like that? No, right? It grows on its own. You just make the surroundings. That means you give fertilizer, you give manure, you give whatever water required for the plant to grow. The plant will grow in its own way, in its own pace, in its own strength, right? That is how children are. You just, he says that the parents and the teachers and the society should nurture them, should give them the enough support to grow, but they shouldn't push their own thinking on them, is what Azim Premji says. Okay, if India has to develop, if India has to develop economically, socially, intellectually, and culturally, we must empower those most vulnerable to social diktat, that is our children. Okay, so he says that if India has to develop economically, socially, politically, or in any aspect, those people who are vulnerable means the victims of social diktat is dictatorship. So those children who are the victims of the social dictatorship or the social power which pushes them to think in a certain direction is something which you need to change. Is, he says, if India has to grow, then we must empower those most vulnerable to social diktat, our children. Empower means you should make them understand or make them uh, see things in a different way. Okay, and who are the victims? Our children are the victims of, our children as you are the victims of this social conditioning, is what he says. Let us resolve to give our children the freedom of childhood. Let us change our schools from being textbook prisons to laboratories of exploration. Let us change homes from being tuition centers to playgrounds of art and sport. So here in this, he is trying to give solutions to the problems before, when he said that uh, like, everyone is forced upon, every child is forced upon to do something. They're burdened with education, day in and day out, they're burdened with education, and they're not looking anything above their classroom. There's nothing beyond for them other than classroom, other than textbook, other than a teacher or a board, nothing. Like, they don't have time for their own exploration. Okay, that is what he says. He says that let us resolve, let us solve this. How? To give our children the freedom of childhood. How do you give your children the freedom of childhood? Let us change our schools from being textbook prisons. Okay, Textbook is a small world, guys. It's a very small world. It's something which is put together, small, brief accounts of here and there. Okay, it's a small world, but the world is there out to explore, to experience, to grow. You go, there are a lot of business people who did not have formal education like you do, yet they are the best business people. Okay, those people like Dhirubhai Ambani, was he taught business in some B school? Was he taught in IIMs? No. He is like, he just applied his common sense. He just applied his senses from working somewhere. See this Guru movie, okay? See that Guru movie and come back to me next class, okay? It's a beautiful movie where he just goes into the market, he fails, yet he again goes to that place, does his business again, 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 again. That is when you succeed. So basically your education is not only this textbook or this classroom or what I say, it is something beyond it. Okay, so that is what uh, Azim Premji is trying to say. Our schools should not be textbook prisons, but they should be laboratories of exploration. It should be a place where children explore. Let us change homes from being tuition centers to playgrounds of art and sport. Well, you can't play art, but he's saying that it should be your creative space. Your home shouldn't be a tuition center. It should be a place where you have time for yourself, where you have time to do whatever you like, to explore, to be creative in your own realm, in your own potential. Okay, that is what he says. And in the last point, he says that India will be radiant. Radiant means very bright, very shiny, radiant. Okay, India will be radiant when our children are free to dance in the rain. So that is how this lesson gets the title "Dancing in the Rain," where he says that according to Azim Premji, that day, that day when children of the community come and play on the streets, that means when they're not restricted and when they're given the freedom to do whatever they want, that is the day when India will progress. Okay, so when children are free to dance in the rain, that is the day when they will progress. Okay, India will progress. That is the day when actually things will change around. Okay, that is it. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful chapter. For me, it was very dear to my heart. Like, I enjoyed reading this, I enjoyed explaining it to you also. I hope you all enjoyed uh, going through it. Well, if you have any doubts, you can again ask me. Let me see. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Everything is clear? Let me recapitulate. Let me go through the lesson once again. In the first point, he talks about Zari factory, the child labor in the Zari factory. In the second point, he says that how do we take out this problem from the root? Let's see the other side of the social spectrum, the rich people or people who can afford education. Okay. So in the third point, he talks about this girl whom he met, his colleague's daughter, who says that she doesn't have time to play. She goes on to school, classes, studying everything day in and day out. She does the same thing and says that board exams come only once and it's only one shot and there's nothing like she cannot see anything above it or beyond it, just board exams and keep studying from day and day out. Okay, education should be a part of your life, but nowadays it's such that everything is like you have to sit and study, you have to sit and study. What? Like, I don't understand that. Well, I know that you all are also might be frustrated with studying day in and day out. If you were doing that, rather than that, try to understand things. Okay, try to be curious. Don't kill the curiosity which you had while you were a kid. Become more and more curious. That is how you learn. Okay, don't stop your curiosity, lessen your ego levels. Okay, I'm not preaching you, but I'm just telling you, like, these help a human being to grow. Okay, so in the third point he talks about that. In the fourth point he says that, is there any difference between a child labor in Zari factory and a child who is burdened with education? Is there any difference? One is doing physical labor, one is doing mental labor, but both of them are doing labor, right? So he says that in the fourth point. In the fifth point, uh, he's wondering whether children have time to play, like the present day children. Do they have time to play? Do they have time to meet interesting people? Do they have time to um, explore? Do they have time for themselves as such? Okay, so that is what he is questioning again. Like, he's wondering, do they even actually, do they have time for themselves? The sixth one, he says that this particular burdening of students with studies or education is not just happening in cities, but it's also happening across the nation, in villages, in slums, in metropolitan high rises, everywhere it is happening. Okay, and he says that all these people, children, are the victims of the society, the parental aspirations, the organizational aspirations. The organization expects you to get what uh, full marks. Your parents also expect you to get full marks, and they say that marks determine your future. But what I personally saw is, like, those who were mediocre in nature, or those who were even failures for that matter in school education, those people actually grew to good heights later on in their stages. So marks do not determine your future. Okay, right now you need to get marks because you have to go to the next level of study. Okay, marks determine as far as your next level of study is concerned, but they do not write your future in such. But make sure you explore, engage in activities, engage in things, learn, just learn. Wherever you sit, you can learn. Even like the smallest of the smallest thing is also a learning. Okay, so he says that children are severely restricted in the sixth point. In the seventh point, he keeps on questioning. All these are in the seventh point, it's all questions. Are children free from the malaise of poverty and hunger? Are they free from the burden of parental aspiration, etc., etc.? He keeps on questioning, like, what are they doing, like, how are they living? Okay, eighth point, he discusses the difference between the adult and the child, and what Gandhiji has told is, you can learn more from a child rather than an adult. Okay, so it discusses what are the lessons that you can learn from a child. Okay, in the ninth point, he goes on to say that I became a father not by reading manuals, by observing kids and learning from them. I became a father. Okay, in the 10th point, he goes on to say that teachers should become learners first and teachers next, and nobody should push down things on their kids. Okay, they should be joint learners. Everyone should have a democratic right to express themselves. Okay, that is the 10th point. 11th point is your classrooms should become laboratories of exploration. That means your school should become a place where you explore, and your house should become centers of playground of art and sports. Like, it's a place where you should play, you should have your creative time. Okay, that is what he says. And the day children will dance in the rain without fearing anybody, or the day when they are removed from the shackles of their parents, the clutches of their parents, the organization, the teachers, or anything, that is the day India will progress, because the child will progress in his or her own way. And that is when India will progress, is what Azim Premji says. Isn't it a beautiful chapter to begin with? Do you find it good? Do you find it nice? Huh? Yeah. So, like, did you understand what I taught you? Did you understand what I taught you? Or was there any doubt anywhere? Anywhere, anybody? Any doubt? Was I too fast? Okay, Krishnavamsi says understood. Aniket says yes. Kostab says yes. Okay, fine. Where are the girls? The girls aren't responding. Okay, fine. Let's go through the glossary ones. Okay, prevalence is presence or existence. Now, the prevalence of poverty in India, the prevalence of educational burden on children. Okay, prevalence means the existence of such things. Malaise. I hope you all are taught phonetic alphabets in your last class, because your pronunciation is given beside the glossary. Like, your word is given and then the verb, the category, and then the pronunciation. Make sure you read according to the phonetic alphabet, okay, so that you know your pronunciation better. Malaise is disorder, a problem or a condition that harms or weakens society. Like, child labor is a malaise, it's a problem, okay. Or burdening students is a problem, it's a malaise. Or what else? Give me some more examples of malaise. Use it in your sentences. You were taught what, Namita? You were taught what? Were you taught this lesson before? Okay, phonetic transcription. Okay, phonetic transcription. Fine. So make sure that you read the phonetic transcription along with the words so that you pronounce them correctly. Okay. Malaise is like a disorder, a problem. So having, like, now corona is a malaise. Okay, corona has become a malaise. It's a problem right now. Fine. So that is malaise. Spectrum, a wide range of similar qualities. For example, this is a spectrum of colors. That means all these are colors, yet these are different colors. Okay, there are red, blue, green, yellow, white, all those, but these are different colors, but all these are colors. Spectrum is that. Okay, a wide range of similar qualities is called spectrum. Explore, that means examine completely and carefully to find out something. That means go and explore the mountains out there. Go and find it out for yourself, what are there over there. Okay, and each one's exploration is different from one another. Okay, what you see and what you perceive of things is different from what I see and I perceive. It is different from some other person's perception. Everyone has his or her own way of seeing things. Okay, so each one should be given the freedom to explore, to know things on their own. Apathetic means showing no interest, or I am apathetic to her feelings. That means I don't care what she feels, I am apathetic. Apathetic means not concerned about others feelings. Straight jacketed, the word itself says straight jacketed. Like, if your jacket is uptight till your nose, how do you feel? Like, very constricted, right? Restricted. So straight jacketed means restricted, stopped from growing. Potential, the quality that exists and can be developed. They say that this child has the potential to create music. That means this child has the capability to do that, right? That is potential, the quality that exists and can be developed. So this or everybody has different potentials, but everyone has some or the other potential. Okay, I know you were told from the very beginning that each child is different, everyone has potential, but few know their potential. The only difference is few know their potential, few do not know their potential. Okay, that is the only difference that is there. Those who do not know the potential are considered, they themselves consider that we are waste, we are no one, we are this, we are that, because we are not able to recognize the potential. But no, nobody is waste on this planet. Everyone has some or the other potential, but the difference lies in recognition of the potential. Okay, some know their potential, some do not know. That's it. Inherently means existing as a permanent and inseparable quality. So inherently means I inherently had this liking for English. That means I from very beginning had this liking for English. That is inherently, okay? Existing as a permanent and inseparable quality. Inherently. For example, you inherently had this thing for drawing aliens, okay? Inherently. That means from very, like, from the time you were a kid, inherently from your own nature. Prejudice and unreasonable dislike or preference. Prejudice, as I told you, like you have assumptions beforehand. Like if I go to some place and say that this place is bad, I already have assumed that that place is bad and I project it to that place. For somebody else, that place might be good. For me, it is bad because I have assumed it that way. Because I assume that there are for example, you go to some this, what do you say, ghost towns and all, you have, no, in malls where you go into these ghost houses, okay? For some it is like, yeah, let's explore, let's go, let's do this and all. For some it is like, yeah, that's ghost town, that's bullshit, I don't want to go, it's all nonsense, it's all this, it's all that. Without even going there, they say that this is all nonsense, okay? So that is prejudice, previous assumptions, okay? That without even exploring or getting into the arena, you assume something already. That is presumption or prejudice. Refrain is stop oneself from doing something. I am refraining from touching the switchboard because there is electric circuit there. Refraining is stopping from doing something. Blossom, bloom, become more healthy and confident. As I told you, children blossom on their own. That means children grow, become more healthy and become more confident when they're left alone, when they are left to do what they want to do rather than what you want to do, okay? Vulnerable is weak and easily hurt physically and emotionally, okay? Vulnerable means you are weak, you can be hurt emotionally and physically. Children are considered the vulnerable lot, and that is why people tend to push everything. You should do that, you should do this, you should be like this, you should be like that, this, that, and all. Everything is pushed onto the child, the poor kid. What would he do? He has to take in all that because he is physically and emotionally weak. He doesn't know the world. He's just very new to the world. And everything is pushed onto the poor child. Okay? That is being vulnerable. Okay? So these are the meanings. This is the glossary. And this is your lesson. Okay? Tomorrow we'll do annotation and questions. Rather than me telling you the answers, I want you all to come up with answers for the annotation and for the questions. Well, I'll also discuss the answers if you go wrong somewhere. We'll do the match the following and other exercises tomorrow. Okay? Today, so that's it for today. Let's end the session here. I hope you all enjoyed it. I want you all to enjoy the session. Make sure that you, as we go through each story, get into the author's perspective. Try to see from the author's perspective or the poet's perspective. Okay. Make sure you enjoy it, explore it, and understand it, and basically think and interpret. So thank you for today. That's it. We'll call it a day. Thank you.